If you own an ROG Ally or plan on getting the new ROG Ally X,
today we're going to dive into 10 must-know tips and tricks that will take your game experience to the next level.
Whether you're a seasoned gamer or a new ROG Ally user, these hacks will help you unlock its full potential.
So sit back, relax, and let's get started.
All right, so first up, performance. One of the first things you can do is change your VRAM allocation. Now, the ROG Ally has 16 gigabytes of memory, and by default, it only allocates 4 gigabytes to the GPU. So we recommend adjusting this and upping it to 6 gigs. And it's pretty simple to do. You just go to Armory Crate, Settings, Operating Mode, GPU Settings, and under Memory Assigned to GPU, change that to 6 gigs. Now you will need to restart for this to take effect. We did notice an increase in gaming performance with higher FPS, so we definitely recommend trying this out.
Okay, which brings us on to AMD Graphics Settings. Now you have FSR, which is in-game, and that's going to upscale the graphics for you. So if you set the game at 720p, FSR is going to upscale it to native screen resolution of the ROG Ally, which is 1080p, which is nice because you set at the lower resolution, GPU doesn't have to work as hard, and FSR will upscale it to 1080p. Then you have RSR. Now RSR is Radeon Super Resolution, and that's if the game doesn't have FSR built in. Right. So that's gonna, use the driver level to upscale your game from a lower resolution to a higher resolution. So that's nice to have. So if you don't have FSR in the game, you got RSR. Mm-hmm. Now you also have another feature. It's called RIS, and that's Radeon Image Sharpening, and that's going to be if you see that the game has like some jaggy, so it's going to do the anti-aliasing for you. And then you have HYPR-RX. Now HYPR-RX is in the AMD software along with RSR and RIS, and that will automatically upscale the game for you using FSR or RSR and give you like the best settings. So it's like a one-click solution. So you can play around with using FSR, RSR, or HYPR-RX to see what's going to give you the best performance in game and what's going to look best for you. So it'll be a case-by-case basis. But those are your options for AMD graphics settings that you have on ROG Ally.
All right, so you have your AMD graphics settings. Now, how do you get the most optimal game settings per game? Now, we have a couple of websites that we recommend where you can go and see the best settings for your games. First up is rogally.games, and here you can find and share the best game settings for your ROG Ally. And they also have settings for emulated games as well, which is really nice. And there's also rogally.life.com, which also has a number of game settings, and you can easily search for your games. They also have a bunch of other helpful information and guides as well.
Okay, another thing you can do is get rid of any unnecessary apps. So less bloat, better performance. So if you're only going to use your ROG Ally for gaming, you're not going to use it as like a replacement computer and you're docking it and using it for like productivity things. You can go to Settings, Apps, Installed Apps. Now you want to leave any ASUS or system management apps alone, but you can get rid of things like Mail and Calendar, Cortana, Maps, News, etc. Things like that. Any kind of app you don't need, you can get rid of it. Like I said, less installed apps is less bloat on the system, which is going to give you greater performance.
All right, so we talked about gaming performance, but what about battery performance? So we recommend adjusting your operating mode based on the games you're playing. So if you're just playing indie games, you can obviously lower that to silent and get more battery performance. For modern games, when we're playing handheld, we usually opt for the 15-watt performance mode, which provides a good balance between performance and battery life. Obviously, if you're playing more demanding games, then you want to do the 25-watt TDP if you're doing handheld or plugged in for 30-watt. Now, if you want to have more control and fine-tune things even more, you also have manual mode where you can adjust TDP settings to your liking and adjust fan curves. Now, the ROG Ally X is going to have double the battery capacity, but these are things that you can still implement because I always say more battery life is better battery life.
So another thing you can do to give you more battery life is you can disable CPU boost. And you can do it right from the command center if you have the shortcut added. Now, less demanding games will have minimal impact on performance. It's going to improve battery life and thermal management so you won't get the thermal throttling. Higher demanding games are going to have potential lower frame rates and less smooth gameplay. So disabling the CPU boost can lead to more consistent performance and longer battery life, especially in those less demanding games, but it's going to reduce that peak performance in demanding game. So it's a trade-off that you need to, figure out for yourself. So
yeah, so like play around with
it. So like Michelle said, the new ROG Ally X is going to have the 80 watt hour battery. So you probably won't need to disable CPU boost, but if you're trying to eke out just a little bit more battery life, this is one of the things you can do.
Now, we all know navigating a Windows handheld can be a little cumbersome at times. So a couple of ways you can do this to make it easier is enabling Steam Big Picture mode and Xbox Compact mode. So to turn on Xbox Compact mode, you can just go to the Xbox app, click on your profile picture in the corner and toggle on Compact mode. And for Steam Big Picture, go to Settings via the Steam button in the upper right-hand corner, go to Interface, and start Steam in Big Picture mode. Now, we did need to restart the system for this to take effect, but these are two things that you can do to make it easier to navigate your major game applications.
Another helpful tip is setting up Command Center shortcuts. Now, you do this in Armory Crate, and you set up your Command Center shortcut buttons that when you hit the Command Center button here, it'll bring up different things that you might want easy access to, one touch, like operating modes, control modes, refresh rate, CPU boost, resolution changes, and your real-time monitor. So you set that up in Armory Crate for your Command Center button, and you got simple access to all of those settings right there. It'll pop up, and it's just one touch.
Now, another thing that makes it really easy to navigate Windows on the ROG Ally is on the back of the ROG Ally, you have these two buttons, the M1 and M2. Now, with either one of those buttons, by default, you have some shortcuts set up, and they're very, very helpful. So with either the M1 or M2 plus the D-pad, so D-pad up brings up the keyboard, down brings up your task manager, left brings show desktop up, right is your task viewer. And then you can also have shortcuts with the face button. So X brings up display settings. A, you can take a screenshot. Y, you can take a screen recording. And B, you can bring up notifications. So it makes it really, really easy to navigate Windows. I know often we're trying to bring up Task Manager and, take a screenshot or whatever. So this makes it really, really easy. And you can also change your key mappings to whatever you want. You can do that for game mode and for desktop mode. So we definitely recommend using those shortcuts.
Okay, another good tip is the end tasks, so you can quit like unresponsive games and apps. You can add this to the Command Center, the end task function, so it's gonna quit whatever you have currently running. So Windows is maybe coming up with the Windows like kind of handheld OS, but that's not available yet. So sometimes apps freeze up, things stop running, and by having that end task there, you hit that and you can quit out of what's currently running. So that's a really nice handy thing to have, so you don't have to try to get back to the desktop, right click, and in case you don't have a keyboard set up, hooked up, that's a really good way to end something that's not working properly. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. These are tips and tricks that we have found useful that work on the ROG Ally. We're going to work on the ROG Ally X that's coming out. So you can apply those to that as well.
And let us know down in the comments below what other tips that you have, because we're always looking for more tips as well as the audience, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the website that we mentioned that has the optimized settings for each game is really helpful. But you can also just play around and you trial and error and also come up with your own custom settings. Let us also know in the comments down below some really good solid settings that you found for some maybe AAA games that aren't mentioned on those websites, or just different things that you found useful. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.